Hey, today I'm talking about 3 more Francois Truffaut films, and the names of those 3 movies are The Man Who Loved Women, The Wild Child, and The Story of Adele H. Well, first up is The Man Who Loved Women. This title is perfectly apt because it's really what it is. It's all about that. The premise is this 40-year-old man played by a 50-year-old man who kind of acts like a 30-year-old man. Whatever. He, by his own admission, is a skirt chaser. He just goes around trying to bang women all the time. But it's not awful. He's not awful. He's not really just trying to have sex with women. He is just madly in love with essentially all women everywhere. Like, if it was up to him, he would literally just be surrounded by women constantly. And there's so many things that are fascinating about this movie. First off is that, like, it's definitely from, like, a place of love. Like, he doesn't just treat women as, like, a piece of meat. That's not what he's about. He has deep feelings for these women. And yeah, he does kind of, like, talk about a lot of superficial things, but, like, it is just about, like, a respect to all of these women that, like, they're so awesome, and he just has to show them how awesome they are. It's kind of it. And one of the many things I love about this movie is that, like, he's not just banging, like, beautiful 20-year-old supermodels. He's going after all walks of life. Technically all white women, but it's France in the 70s. It's not too surprising that it's just white women, but whatever. It's older women, it's, you know, yeah, definitely beautiful women, but also just more normal looking women, women a little bit bigger, just like, it's a whole slice of life thing. And I love too that, like, he doesn't always succeed. Like, we see him strike out a lot. And a lot of this film is just him kind of thinking back upon his life of chasing women and what it all means and all of these things. A lot of times it's just like ramblings, but it's all interesting ramblings because the dude is kind of crazy at times. Like, he does some batshit stuff and it sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't work. And, like, the most crazy thing he does gets met with a surprising amount of success. But then as we learn more about that woman, it's not surprising because she's kind of more crazy than he is. And it's just, it's so interesting. I really enjoyed this movie. I would definitely recommend it. I didn't rank it as high as it probably deserves, and that's just because while watching the movie, I kept getting interrupted by stuff and I'd take long breaks, and that was so frustrating because the movie was legitimately great and I loved it. This probably should be in the top 10, but it's not because because I couldn't watch it all in one sitting. So I know the next time I watch it, I'm gonna love it even more, and I can't wait for that day because it's so good. It's so weird and ridiculous, but, like, it's grounded ridiculous. Like, yeah, this guy's doing something insane, but it's like, it feels like you know someone who did that exact same thing like 3 years ago, and it's just like, it feels so real, and I loved it. It's great. It's a really good movie. The next up is The Wild Child. This is a 1970 movie starring Francois Truffaut. He also wrote and directed it. And it's based on a true story about this little 10-year-old boy who was found in the wilderness of France. But he was a mute. He was feral and just probably had been living in the woods for like 8 years or something. 6 to 8 years all by himself. Presumably left for dead. And Francois plays this doctor who takes pity on the child and tries to make it so that he can survive in society. And at first, I really didn't care for the movie. I didn't like the portrayal of the child. It seemed too ridiculous. That's probably not how it went down, like certain mannerisms and stuff. But then as, you know, their relationship, the man and boy's relationship, formed and he slowly grew and learned stuff, the movie's heart won me over. It struck a chord with me, and by the end there were some really satisfying moments where I was like, all right, movie, you did your job good. I liked you. I quite liked you. And apparently it is fairly accurate. They kind of almost toned stuff down or just didn't include certain aspects. There's a huge post on IMDb trivia that goes into great detail, which I appreciate that person. I love it when people do stuff like that. Yeah, this movie is accurate and it's pretty dang good. So again, I would recommend this movie, especially if, like, you like the movie Nell. It's very similar to that, except not Jodie Foster. It's a 10-year-old boy. So yeah, it's pretty good. Definitely recommend. And lastly is The Story of Adele H. Do you know what that H stands for? Hugo. That means her name is Adele Hugo, aka she is the daughter of Victor Hugo, whose name you should hopefully recognize. I'll leave it to you to Google it if you don't. And it's okay if you don't. I don't judge. Anyway, so this is once again based on a true story, based off of the diaries of Adele Hugo, who was a schizophrenic. And so basically when she was a young adult, she got obsessed with this British guy, and then after he joined the army and got sent to Canada, she followed him across the seas to Canada to make him love her. Spoilers, he doesn't. And she doesn't take no for an answer. Ever. Even though he says it a lot of times. This movie kind of did its job a little too well, in that Adele is fucking crazy. Like, she is just balls to the wall batshit. And it's like, yeah, she's a schizophrenic, which I didn't know while watching the movie. But like, it's a lot. Ugh. And so they probably portrayed her accurately. I'm not an expert on schizophrenics, but she was just so irritating that I could not stand her whatsoever, which was potentially the point. So I definitely give the movie credit. It told probably a fairly accurate story of a very mentally deranged person, but that's not always the funnest movie-going experience. So quality-wise, it's probably like a quite liked, but just from, I couldn't stand her. I did end up putting this movie in the liked. I gave it a liked. It was a liked. Would I recommend it? No. Don't watch it, because she's just gonna make you pull your hair out. Unless that's what you want to do. If you want to pull your hair out, yeah, totally watch this movie. It's great. Otherwise, don't watch this movie. I mean, it's good, but no. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got The Man Who Loved Women, sitting at number 31 in the really liked category. And then after that is The Wild Child, sitting at number 101 in the quite like section. And then bringing up the rear is The Story of Adele H, sitting at number 128 in the liked category. And this is out of a total of 216 old movies so far this year.